Okay, so how we're trying to add fractions here. And so how do we add, subtract fractions? Well, step number one is to factor the denominators. Step number one is factor denominators. So right there. So this denominator right here is x squared minus 4. This is a multiply. So 2 parentheses, x is in the front, plus 2 and minus 2. Right, that's how we get minus 4. Is that good? Right, plus 2 times minus 2 is minus 4. So we factor denominators first off. And then step number 2 is we multiply top and bottom of both fractions. Both fractions to make the denominators the same, right? We got to get common ground, common denominators. We've got to make the bottoms the same, don't we? So, all right, so how do we do that? Well, we come to the first one. The first one needs an x plus 2. The second one doesn't need anything. So in this case, we don't have to mess with the second fraction at all. Do you notice that? So we don't always have to do both fractions. Sometimes we only have to mess with the first fraction. Just do whatever it takes. One fraction, both fractions, whatever it takes to make the two denominators become exactly the same. See how the two denominators are now the same? They both have an x plus 2 and an x minus 2, don't they? So I didn't need to do anything to the second fraction because he already had all the stuff, didn't he? He already had both those pieces in his denominator when I factored him on the step number 1. Only the first fraction, I should say, only the first fraction needed some stuff in order to have everything. So I gave him what he was missing, top and bottom, x plus 2. Top and bottom. Now the two denominators match. So that's great. We've now got common denominator. So you could just make it one big fraction, x plus 2, x minus 2. I'll bring this down. Right, let's bring this plus sign right there. And this 8's going to distribute. And what do we have? So now step number 3, multiply the tops only. We're not going to multiply the bottom. Once we get the common denominator at the bottom, we're good. We're done with the bottom. We're not messing with the bottom anymore. Multiply the tops only and gather like terms. So in the top, multiply, gather like terms. So what do we get then in the top? 8x plus 16 plus x minus 34. Bottom is still the same. We're not messing with the bottom. And so we clean that up a little bit. Let's gather like terms in the top. 8x, and this is really 1x, so that makes 9x. And then 16 minus 34. What's that? Minus 18. Oh, we're going to have another step here. Okay, yeah. Let me go to another page. Let me bring it down vertically. Yeah, this one is going to have one more step. This is a good one. So in the tops, we're going to have 9x minus 18. See what happened there, right? So just the 8x and the 1x made 9x, and plus 16 minus 34, just use your calculator. It came out minus 18. Now we have a step number 4. Why? Why aren't I just done? Why am I not just done right here? Well, look at the top. We can factor the top. Now, normally, most of the time we can't do it. Most of the time, the top will not factor. Yeah, so let me just say, try to factor the top. Most of the time, the top will not factor. You know, like if this was a 17 instead of 18, then you couldn't factor the top. But when it's 18, we go, oh, yeah, you actually can factor that. You can take out a 9, and it leaves x minus 2, huh? You tracking with me? Right? That 9 times x and 9 times 2 would go back to 9x and 18, wouldn't it? So that top is actually factorable. So try to factor the top, because I say try because usually it doesn't factor. Most of these fraction problems, the top will not factor. And cancel, meaning x minus 2 and x minus 2 are going to cancel. So when all is said and done, what are we left with? 9 on the top, x plus 2 on the bottom. You don't need the parentheses around the x plus 2 on the bottom anymore because there's nothing to separate it from anymore. The other part, the x minus 2, is gone. So there's our answer. It's just 9 over x plus 2. So the last step is to try to factor the top. Sometimes the top is factorable, not always, but sometimes it is. So notice that the first 2 steps are all about the numerator, or all about the denominator, my mistake, right? The first thing we do is factor denominator and then get a common denominator. And then the last 2 steps are all about the top. Multiply the top, gather like terms, and then try to factor the top. So it's bottom, bottom, top, top. On that. And there we go.